class. Today's class, we're going to be learning the deeper messages behind cleaning for Pesach, decluttering, and spring cleaning. What goes on, and tapping into the very powerful energies of this month of Nisan and Pesach as we get ready physically. We also want to get ourselves spiritually ready so that the day doesn't pass over us and we can absorb and tap into the powerful kochot of this month. We're also going to talk about unsubscribing from toxic trends and limiting beliefs that hold us back from being our greatest self. So to intro, and we learn in Chassidut that Pesach, Yetziat Mitzrayim, is not just something that happened many years ago. It's a continuous event that occurs in our souls, in our bodies. Yetziat Mitzrayim on a deeper level, in the microcosm, it means leaving our Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim in Hebrew means limitation. So it means breaking free of our limitations. And it's something that we have to, and we try to experience on a daily level. We want to break through our limitations of yesterday and climb higher heights. This happens that's why we mention Yetziat Mitzrayim every single day in Shema a few times a day. Plus, but on Pesach, we learn that we have this koach to break free of our limitations even more than every single day of the year. And this power is extremely strong throughout the entire month of Nisan. And that's actually the reason we often think, if I ask anyone, why do we celebrate freedom and miracles on Pesach? What would you say? Because Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. But in truth, Kabbalah tells us it's the exact opposite. That the reason God took us out of Mitzrayim in this month, on this day, is because since the beginning of creation, every month has a different energy. Every month has its own unique shifting of energy based on the Sefer Yetzirah, the earliest Kabbalistic text, tells us it's based on the order and the tetragrammaton of Hashem's four-letter name in that month. On the, what's the word? Order?
Not a palette.
Oh, fine. It'll come.
It goes back and forth.
The formation of the letters. So in this month, in Nisan, from the beginning of creation, Nisan was a month of Gula, a month of redemption. From the beginning of creation, this was the biggest month to be able to break free of limitations, to access great miracles. So Darabah, thank you, Siftach, for hosting this amazing shiur, and to everyone who came and everyone who's watching the shiur, I'm honored. So Pesach, from the beginning of creation, has been this time of freedom, and that is why of all the months, our freedom, our cherut, our breaking free of our slavery happened in this month. And now, why specifically on the 14th of the month? Because the monthly energies go according to the moon. And on which day of the month is the moon the strongest? On the 14th of the month, on the middle of the month. And that is why the energies of every month are most potent and powerful on that day on the 13th day of the month. So that is why on the 14th of Nisan is the day when we were able to draw this redemptive energy and this power of breaking free limitations. So we're tapping into now understanding the inner experience of breaking free limitations. And if you go through all of the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim and the Seder, each one of those are not just a cool makkah that happened years ago. It's a clue to us of how we can break free of our inner limitations. So let's just one more background before we go even deeper. So one we said is that Yetziat Mitzrayim is breaking free of our limitations, and cherut, freedom. What does it mean to truly be free? There's so many interpretations of what that means to be free. And according to the Rebbe, being free, truly being free, is being able to express your potential to its fullest. And he gives examples. He says a plant to be free only needs flowers, sun, air, water, soil, and it's able to express its potential as a plant. It can grow. An animal needs something different. An animal is on the next level than a plant. If you give an animal soil, water, air, but you put it in a cage and it can't move, it can't express its greatest potential of being an animal, being able to roam free. And if you take a human being and give it everything an animal has, being able to roam free, food, but it can't have the ability to speak, to think, to develop its mind, to form deep connections, then that human is not free. That's a jailed human being. Whereas for an animal, that might be a great life, right? I'm living my best life. So each one of us, cherus, our freedom, is very individual. It's very subjective. There's a story of a boy who came to the doctor who couldn't see. And the doctor said, here, take my glasses. And they gave him his glasses. And he's like, I can't see at all. He says, I don't understand. It worked for me. So what's free for one person is not free for everybody. And the Rebbe takes it further and says, for a human being, freedom might be being able to have, express your intellectual potential. But for a Jew, cherus is even different than that, because for a Jew, he has a godly soul. And a Jew, to be free, needs to be able to also express his godly soul, his neshama, his nefesh elokit, to be connected to Hashem. And that is why one of the famous questions asked about Mitzrayim is that Hashem took us out of slavery from Egypt, but then he made us do all these mitzvahs. So we're still a slave. But we're not, because now we're free to express our godly selves. The mitzvahs, we said last week, we can reframe it as a gift. Oh, I'm so dry. Do you mind some water? Oh. I know what it is. Thank you so much. Fine. So what we're trying to experience in Pesach is freedom. So if freedom or Peros is being able to express your fullest potential, for every one of us that might look different, because Hashem gave every one of us a different unique koach, a different potential. We all have our own neshama built with our own capabilities. So I want to take a minute before we start, because the whole class is going to be based on how we can access our highest potential, how we can tap into this energy on Pesach of Hashem freeing us from all of the things that hold us back from accessing our highest potential. Because why aren't we being our greatest self? So there's a few steps to this. Number one is thinking about what is my highest potential, and one of the questions I like to ask that helps me figure out, what is it that makes you, that you're passionate about? What is it that you feel like gets you up in the morning, that you feel like passionate, I want to make a difference in this? And another question that is controversial is, what do you want to be remembered for after 180 years? What do you want them to write on your tombstone about you? And that can help tell you what the mark you want to make in the world, what is the biggest impact you want to make. And you think about the potential you have and all of the great things you want to do, why aren't we doing that? And there's so many reasons, because there's so many things that hold us back from it. There's physical constraints, external constraints that come from outside of us, money, time, financial limitations, life, and then there's a lot of internal restrictions. And in Nisan, the time when Hashem allows us to not just step out of our limitations and climb step by step, which would be halicha. I could even demonstrate when you walk from one place to another place. Usually, to climb under limitations, if I say I want to be in this place, I want to be successful, I want to change the world, I want to be free of a negative relationship, of anything holding me back in my life, I would think about the steps. In Pesach, the word Pesach itself means to leap, to jump over, to pass over. It's a way Hashem gives us the ability to not just climb out of our limitations step by step, but to leap out of it. And that is literally what happened to us as a nation. One day we were slaves, and the next moment, within moments, we were a free nation. And that is resembled what we commemorate by having the matzah, because the matzah is really interesting. By eating matzah, we're saying that we went out so fast from one state to another state. We leaped over all the steps that we didn't even have time for our bread to rise. And that's what we're remembering by saying our bread didn't even have time to rise. It was so fast. So a lot of times we limit ourselves. We often limit Hashem by saying, okay, for Hashem to make me better, he needs to first do this. Hashem doesn't need to go through all the steps. He's not limited by all the steps that we place upon ourselves. We can open ourselves up to the fact that maybe in one day I can be at the place I want to be. Open up to being open to Hashem giving us that ability. So that's just a little bit of background. Before we start, I want to do 1 minute meditation, and that's why I brought markers and things if you want to paint it out, because to manifest it, we want to do a manifestation of trying to picture who your greatest potential, your goddess self, you unbridled, you without any restrictions or any limitations, what that would be, what that would look like. Try and just put that out there in the world, in your mind, to just manifest that in your mind.
אני עשיתי את הכל, שרום לא היה
The next step after kind of getting some idea of all of the greatness you can be impacting the world is to then make a list of all the things holding you back, all the mitzarayim in your life, all the mitzarayim from within. So I like to make 2 columns or 2 separate sections, the inner restrictions and the outer restrictions. The outer restrictions, we have to surrender and let Hashem take care of, because those are things out of control, money, time. Those are things we're going to learn about soon, how we can manifest that and make a vessel, because Hashem literally on Pesach took us out of Mitzrayim in a way that wasn't us doing anything. We'll talk about that soon. The other way is, there's the other part of it is the things that are from within. There's the inner restrictions, the things that hold us back, like we spoke of Amalek, the self-doubt, the worry, the fears, the anxieties, we'll talk about those later. And those are the things we want to make a list of that we can work on letting go of. And that is what Pesach Clean is all about. That is just the introduction. Now we're going to get more into putting all this together. But hopefully you have in mind a little bit about who you could be, how you envision yourself, if it's a picture of yourself, if it's just an image of how free you could be, how unafraid you would be, unapologetic, unafraid of failure, unafraid of ridicule, unafraid of shame, etc. How that could look like. If it's a color, an image that comes to mind, try to keep that in mind, and then we can make this class very real. So that was a little bit of an intro to Pesach, the freedom to be our greatest essential self, and free from all limitations. Now we're going to get into the month of Nisan, according to Sefer Yetzirah. I brought you, for the first time in your source sheet, I brought you the actual quote from Sefer Yetzirah that talks about Nisan. It's very hard to understand, but we have the translation by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan, Rabbi Shalom. Hashem says, Himlich os hey. Hashem appointed the letter Hey, the sicha with speech. Because the kasher lo keter, and he attached to it a crown, which it says about all the months. V'tzarfan ze baza, and united them together. V'tzar bahem taleh, and he formed in them a taleh. But then what a taleh means? A lamb, which is the sign of the month. The Aries is the sign of the lamb. Ba'olam, and he hung them. He attached the hay and the lamb, and he hung them in the world. V'tzar bahem taleh ba'olam, put them in the world. V'nisan, in the month of Nisan, Nisan bashana, the regel yamin benefesh, on the right leg in our soul, zachar v'nekeva, male and female, he created them. So we have all we know from this is that it's a month of Nisan. It's connected to the lamb, connected to the letter Hey, and connected to sicha, which is speech. Okay, so Nisan, just a little bit. The word Nisan itself, we'll go start from the outer layer and we'll work our way in. Nisan means, we learn from it, the Chamim say that it means nes. It comes from the root word of nes, and the extra nun says it's not just one nes, but it's nisei nisim. It's continuous miracles, which we obviously see throughout the month, the miracles of Hashem. In fact, in the Gemara it says, Nisan is also connected to Geula, to the Chodesh of Geula. And the Gemara says, I brought you this source as well. In Nisan, Nigalu Avotenu, Mitzrayim, in Nisan, we were redeemed from Egypt. And in Nisan, we will be redeemed. We will be redeemed from this Golas that we're in into the ultimate Geula. The miracles of this month are different than any other month in that the miracles are extraordinary miracles. They're not just like they're crazy miracles that you can't even fathom. The makol, the splitting of the sea, and that is why it's like Nisei Nisim. So it's a month so connected to Nisim. In fact, it says that if you through this month we can expect a lot of miracles. We could be open to miracles to happen in our lives. And the Gemara says at any time of year, if someone dreams of the word Nisan, they can expect to see a miracle in their lives, of course, because it's a very powerful word. The word itself, Nisan, is connected to miracles. Now, the Nisan we learn is Rosh HaChadashim. It's the first of the months. We begin counting our months from Nisan, and Tishrei is the first of the new year. We count the years from Tishrei and the months from Nisan, and we learn that the difference between Tishrei and Nisan. What is the difference between them? So this is very cool. Tishrei, the avoda, and the light from Hashem comes from. It's an avoda that starts with us. We do the work, we do the teshuvah, and we awaken Hashem's reciprocal love for us. It's called Ani Ladodi. We say in Elul, Vidodi Li. I am to my beloved, means I start the work, I initiate, and Hashem reciprocates from above. In Nisan, it's the exact opposite. We also say in Tishrei is Haras Olam, it's the pregnancy, it's us initiating, doing the work. Tishrei is Nisan, that's in Tishrei. In Nisan, we learn that the light from Hashem doesn't come as a response from our avoda at all. It's the exact opposite. In fact, the way that Hashem's light flows into this world, the order of the letters of Hashem's name, are in perfect order in this month. They've come in the way that Hashem's name is Vav, is Yud, Hey, Vav, and Hey. It's the only month that they're in perfect order. It's an unobstructed flow of Hashem's light to us in the perfect way, and the flow of perfect energy. It's a time when things are perfect in their form. In the flow, and we learned that the avoda to get the gifts of Nisan, it's compared to a birth. It's a gift from above. It has nothing to do with our avoda. We don't need to do anything to initiate it. We don't need to do teshuvah. We don't need to go do avoda and Elul and Tishrei. Hashem just gives us the flow like a gift from above, and that's connected to the shevet of each month. Later on in Sefer Yetzirah, it mentions every month is tied to one of the shvatim. The shevet of this month is Yehuda. Do you know why Leah named Yehuda her name? Why we're called Yehudim, the whole nation? Hoda'ah, gratitude, moda'ah. She said, Apam Oda al Hashem. This time I'll be grateful to Hashem. It's gratitude for the gift Hashem gave her of the son. It was an extra son that Hashem gave her. I think it was like, I don't know why she was grateful.
Was supposed to get 3 sons.
And she got an extra one, right? And Apam Oda al Hashem. We say every morning, Moda'ani, and we're named Yehudim for this idea of gratitude. And what does gratitude have to do with Nisan? That Nisan, the miracles given to us in Nisan were a gift to us, not by anything we had to do to deserve it or to earn it. In fact, a gift, it's considered a gift is only a gift if you don't earn it. If you earn it, it's not a gift anymore. It's a reward, or it's a schar, it's a payment. So it had nothing to do with us. It said we were a room, we were naked of mitzvah, we had no merits, but Hashem gave us this gift, and it's compared to a birth. Nisan is our rebirth. It's the time when we became Hashem's nation. It's the beginning of the month. It's our beginning of being a nation, and it's called our birth. What does birth entail from the fetus? Nothing. The fetus it just has to be born. It doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to earn it. It doesn't have to deserve it. It doesn't have to work for it. It just has to allow itself to be born. It's something given. It's a gift given to us. So we learned that all of the lights from Nisan, all of the miracles from Nisan, all of that continue to happen every single year, not just in that year, in the same exact way, especially on that first night, are given to us as a gift without any avoda required. Nothing required from our part, just like Yehuda and Hoda'ah and this gratitude. But then, on the other hand, we feel like Nisan is the the Pesach is the Chag that we work for the most. But we're saying it's labor free, but we literally labor for like from before Purim already starting to work for it and slave away and turn over our kitchen. And so how do we reconcile the two? So we have to understand what type of work is needed to receive a gift, right? You can't ask for a gift or request it or work for it or demand it, or because then it's not a gift. But what can you do to receive a gift? All we could do really, if someone gives you a gift, and you don't have room for it in your home, if someone buys you a gift and you don't have room for it in your home, then it's not a gift, it's like an annoyance. So to receive a gift, we need to just make space for that gift. We need a clear space so we can receive the gift and have room for it. Like before a baby comes, we make space in our home, we clean it, we have nesting instincts. We want to make space for this new gift. We buy new clothes, hopefully we take away old clothes beforehand, because if we don't, what happens is that all the new things we have, we can't even enjoy them or even find them or see them because we're so full of all the old things that we have. So gifts are only a gift if we have space to receive them. If we can't receive the gift, it's going to stay outside and it's going to be a waste of gift. So our whole work of Nisan, that's what Pesach cleaning is. Pesach cleaning on one level and decluttering, and this whole act of Pesach cleaning is to make space, not just in our homes for Pesach, for the matzah, but it's actually to make space in our souls to receive the gifts that Hashem wants to give us. And it's an inner act. The act of Pesach cleaning is an inner act of cleansing out chametz. We're going to talk soon about what chametz is, of cleansing out the chametz on our soul and all the things that weigh us down and hold us back from getting and receiving the gifts. Because if God gives us this gift of in the month of Nisan, and we're not open to receiving it, we could be like, it's like the 80%, the 4/5 of the Jews in Mitzrayim who weren't open to receiving that gift. They didn't have an opening for that gift, and they remained in Mitzrayim. Only 20% of the Jews left Egypt because Hashem was giving them a gift, but they couldn't receive it because they didn't make space to receive it. So while Hashem is giving us this gift, we don't have to receive, we don't have to work for it, we do need to open ourselves up. And that leads me to the Hey. Okay, the Hey, the letter of the month of Nisan. In Sefer Yetzirah, we said Himlich Os Hey. He pointed the letter Hey. Hey is the letter that creates the entire world. It says Hashem Ela told L'Shamayim Baris B'Hi Baram. We mention this all the time. The Gemara says the Hey Baram. Hey is the letter Hashem created the entire world with, and this ties right directly in this month, the letter of the month, which is Hey, and the bodily sense of the month, because in every month we have a bodily sense that we tap into more than any other time. The bodily sense of this month, anyone remember what I said? Was speech and breath. That's why we did the breathing work. Speech and breath is the bodily sense. Maybe I didn't say it actually. Speech and breath is the bodily sense of this month, and that is directly connected to the letter Hey, because Hey is the root of all speech. We cannot speak if we don't have the letter Hey, and that is why Hashem created the world through Hey, because just God created the world through speech, through His speech. Basara marmarot nivra olam, and speech comes through Hey. Also, Hey is Malchut, and Hashem creates the world through His kingship, through Malchut and creation. That's side one. So
Is like breath.
exactly. So the root of all Hashem created the world through the 22 letters, and the root of all the letters is Hey. There's two types of Hey in our. This is a physical. If you look it up, there's different types of letters, different parts of our mouth that they're used. We can't speak without the letter Hey physically as well, because there's two types of Hey. Hey is the breath. Every letter requires breath. That's the silent Hey. That's actually the feminine Hey. And then there's the other Hey, which is the voice, ha, that also comes from Hey as well. So the voice and the sound that makes every letter, and the breath that comes in every letter, both come from Hey. So with Hey, Hashem formed the world. With His speech, Hashem formed the world. And Hey is our power of creation as well. The same way that Hashem created the world through speech, we can create, through speech, we can create life, we can build someone up, we can create a child's biggest dreams by telling them how great they can be, and we can ruin someone's life through gossip, through our speech. We can create worlds and destroy worlds through our speech. So just like that's what we learn from the power of the Hey, that our speech is our power to create or destroy. Now, why am I saying this? Because so Hey is the letter of the month, it's connected to our speech. Later on, we'll get to, at the end of this year, we'll talk about the connection of speech. Hopefully we'll have time, because speech literally is the redemption. Pesach was the redemption of speech. It's the freedom of the opening of the mouth. In fact, the Rizal says that the word Pesach should be read as Peh, a mouth, Sach, that speaks. And then he says that the Hey was hidden, and it's the redemption of the Hey, because Pesach doesn't actually have a Hey. So anyways, there's this really deep idea that I did not understand. But the idea of it was that Pesach is about opening the mouth and taking paro, which is literally pera. If you take the letters apart and divide them up, you're taking paro, which is pera, which is a negative speech, which is what led to slavery. The lack of communication is what leads to slavery. All of slavery happens when people don't communicate, they don't have proper communication, and so that was what paro is what led to that slavery. And we transform paro into pesach, into communication, into redeeming of the mouth and opening of the mouth. So I said I'm going to say this later, but I'm just going to hint to it now. We have this theme of opening of the mouth throughout the entire Seder. In one of the mitzvahs that it says in the Torah, mitzvah for Pesach is that you should tell over the story of Pesach. One of the whole main mitzvahs of Pesach is to repeat the story. In fact, it says in the Haggadah, anyone who increases in telling, the more we speak, the more we open up our mouths, the more we speak and tell and use our power of our hey, our power of creation, the more it is praiseworthy. In fact, it also says that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim to sapru, in order that you could tell over this story, in order that you could speak about freedom, talk about your freedom, talk about the problems of slavery, talk about the limitations and how we can be free. And speaking about it is our redemptive power. It's a power to open up our mouths and to use our power to create worlds through our speech and to manifest. So that's why Pesach is all about manifestation. That's why I wanted you to speak and to tell your greatness, to speak about your potential, to speak about the limitations so that we can break ourselves free of them. There's a few more hints I'll do to Pesach in the Haggadah. Where in the Haggadah, in the Seder, do we fulfill this mitzvah of the Higadat Lebincha? There's an actual part of the Seder that's dedicated to talking about the Seder. The longest part, the favorite part, Magid, right? Magid means to tell, to speak, to use our power of speech. Which step of the Seder is Magid? Kadesh, Orchatz, Karpas, Yachatz. Magid is the fifth. So it's Hey, it's the number 5. Again, we have this Hey. The theme of Hey is literally the root of all of the Seder, all of Pesach. Hey is the theme of Pesach, connects to matzah, connects to speech, because Hey is the speech. It's the 5th part of the Seder, which is to speak about. In fact, what does Magid begin with? Anyone remember, by any chance, the Seder? How does Hey Lachmanya? What does Hey Lachmanya begin? Hey again, the word Hey. We have this letter Hey and the idea of speech, and Hey Lachmanya is calling out to all the people to need or are needing to come to us. It's all about using our power of our voice. And it also says that Hashem, when did Hashem finally redeem us? Why did Hashem take us out? Because I heard your cry. I heard you calling out, using your voice and calling out to be free. We can only be free from our limitations if we call out for help. If we want to be freed, so many times we want to help people who are in a stuck situation, but they don't want to be helped, and you can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. It's one of the most frustrating things to try and give someone help who doesn't want to be helped. They have to call out themselves and call out for help, and then Hashem could take us out. Hashem said, I could take you out, but until you call out and you want to be saved, I can't save you, I can't help you. So using our voice, the redemption of our voice is a connection of Hey and Pesach, the Higadat Lebincha, speaking over at the Seder, asking the questions, talking and communicating. All those things will be the first step. I know, because I always speak about I'm very open about my personal darkness I was in. You literally can't get out of your darkness until you start to talk about it, start to be aware, start to realize that, acknowledge that you're in a dark place, acknowledge that you need help. Say, oh wow, this is wrong. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in Galut. So,
Kiki,
yeah.
there was something else you once taught us about the letter Hey. Do you remember what I'm saying? Does that have anything to do with it?
It does, but it's so long. I'll repeat it in short. I'll mention it. I'll link it below. I will link it this time. That the opening of the Hey, that Hashem created the whole world with Hey, and the opening of the Hey is the gap. We're going to actually get to it a little bit soon. I'll get to it soon. Okay, now we're getting to it right now, actually. I'll tie it in. Okay. The second part of Hey.
So are you going off of this pasuk when you're grabbing the letters?
The
Because I'm trying to, like,
why Hey is connected to
break
Pesach, to
down.
Nisan.
Yeah.
The pasuk in Sefer Yetzirah tells us that Hashem created each month through one letter. He gives the life to that month through the letter, and this month Hashem literally gives all of the life flow that comes into this month is through the letter Hey. It's specifically in Pesach. But the truth is that it also says that Behei Nivra Olam, when it says at the end of Bereshit, in the end of creation of the world, it says Ela Toldot Shemayim Ba'aretz Behi Baram. Behei Bar, and the Gemara says Behei Baram, that Hashem actually formed the entire world through the letter Hey. So Hey is like the most fundamental letter. Now we're gonna get into a real. Oh, I didn't print it. Okay, I need a marker. Jorah, could you write chametz and matzah on top of each other for me?
Here, you did it here.
Oh, I did it for you guys. Okay, but who could do it in big for me? So I could demonstrate. Who's artistic? Jorah, you're artistic. Do it at the back of yours. Okay. So I need, please, I need a matzah and a chametz. So now getting into the next, so just to summarize, we said that the whole avoda is to make space to receive from Hashem, because there is no avoda needed on our part, and that's what the cleaning out of Pesach is. Now we're going to tie this in to the Hey of the core of what Pesach is all about. Pesach is all about turning our chametz into matzah. One of the questions that we should ask is that we say in the Haggadah that why in the Torah, why do we have matzah on Pesach? Because we left Mitzrayim so hastily that our bread didn't have time to rise. Could you imagine that we had one more hour and our bread rose, and then we could have chametz on Pesach, and we wouldn't have to clean our houses, because of 1 hour or whatever time it was that they didn't, they baked their bread an hour earlier. Why didn't they just do that? So because of their lack of time management, or because of 1 hour faster, we have to, we kind of, any chametz now for a week in our house, we spend our whole year not having food upstairs, right? We base our whole lives around this, about like Pesach cleaning. It is insane, right? To think about one fluke of nature. In fact, it's crazy I'm thinking about from like, I grew up religious, but like from a non-religious perspective, it's like, yeah, so the difference between chametz and matzah, we can have bread, but if it rises, we have to not only not eat it, but anything that touched it, we can't eat off of. We have to use different pots and pans and like different kitchen. We can't even use a kitchen that touched the same bread, but it rose a little bit more. It's actually crazy. So obviously, there's way more to chametz and matzah than just the fact that it didn't rise for an hour. In our soul, there's a way deeper idea to chametz and matzah. So what does chametz and matzah resemble in our soul? So it all goes back to the word chametz and matzah. Wait, did you draw it for me? Not a picture. Oh.
No, the letters.
I think the words.
Like this.
So you can write them on either side.
I meant the words, just chametz and matzah. Okay, I'll show you what here. Don't worry.
It's artistic, that's for sure.
Could you just pass me a marker? I'll just scream it.
Oh,
See what she drew.
I'll show you what. I need it like one and big on top of the other one to demonstrate.
Now we
I'm sorry, I was not clear in my instructions. It's like when my son tells me a story and like skips out all the details. Okay, so let's say this is my chametz. Well, I'll show you Jorah's nicer one later. This is, so we, like that, something like that. Okay, so chametz and matzah are in fact almost identical. They're both bread. One rose, one didn't. In the names chametz and matzah, though, we also see that they're almost. We grew up on this since we're 5. We learned this, but it's really novel. This is a very deep Hasidic idea. The word chametz and matzah are almost identical, right? Both have a mem and a tzaddik. The only difference is that the chametz has a chet and the matzah has a hey. And even the chet and the hey are almost identical, right? They're both made up of 3 letters, the thought, speech, and action that we spoke about. The only difference is that the hey has an opening. So just like chametz and matzah, the only difference is that the bread had time to rise. The hey is the hey of humility. So let's talk about the difference. The hey is the exact same letter as the ches, but the ches has no crack in it. And what does the crack represent? The crack represents the opening for Hashem. It represents the flaw in the gap in creation that we spoke about earlier, that I said I'll mention, that there's thought, speech, and action, and there's a gap between how things are, like ideally, and how things are down here. And that's the gap where we work to reconcile our actual lives with how the vision of how we want to be, with how things turn out to how we wish, we hope it to be. So that's the gap that the hey represents. It also represents the gap of humility, because the ches is whole. It says, I am perfect, I don't need anything, I'm complete, I don't need anything from Hashem. In fact, the ches and the hey are so similar, it's like the bread is exactly the same. There's nothing different in them, just one rose with self-importance, with pride. So the chametz represents pride and ego, and the matzah is the exact same thing, but it's the same person, but he has more humility. It's the Moshe Rabbeinu, the humility. Now, what does that humility come from? It could be that I have the exact same thing. Let's say I had a shiur that worked out really well. So many people came, and I come up to a shiur, I'm like, I did amazing. I prepared such a great shiur. People love me. And then, or I can have the same shiur where some people come and I say, I thank Hashem that I'm a vessel. I'm just a vessel for whatever Hashem wants to put through me. If people show up or don't show up, it's all from Hashem. That's the humility. It's the exact same situation. One feels like I am me. I made myself. That is pride. That is I did it myself. It is my work. It is my success. It is my failure. I own that. And one is humble. It opens that up. That opening up for Hashem, for the blessings of Hashem, for the opening up of Hashem, to say, to try to remember before you give a shiur, do something to say, I'm a vessel, Hashem, whatever you want to send through me. It's an opening reminder that everything comes from Hashem, that all of my goodness, everything comes from, all the chef I have in my life comes from Hashem. And that's what we're working to do. The whole Pesach is about transforming, the inner work of transforming the chametz, the ches, our fullness and our pride, and to cracking it open, to making it into hay, to turning it into matzah. And that's what that's all about. To make that opening for Hashem. And how do we do that? How do we get rid of that? By just remembering that everything in my life comes from Hashem. And one of the other questions asked that is, if chametz is, we speak about it in the Chassidut, the chametz is the root of all evil, because chametz leaves no room for God. It is saying, it's kfira. It's saying like, it leads to mamash not believing in Hashem, thinking that I am whole and there's no God above. There's no opening to remembering Hashem. Like there's a famous quote, I forget, by some philosopher that says, where is God? Wherever you let him in. Obviously, Hashem is everywhere, but if we don't let him in, we don't get to experience Hashem. So that crack is that opening in our lives that breaks us a little bit. Sometimes we have things that happen in our life that break us down and we realize, oh, I need Hashem, I need to daven. And sometimes it comes from inner things going on. We realize everything's from Hashem. And so we learn that chametz is the root of all negativity, so much we have to eradicate every drop of it. But the question then is, if chametz is the root of all evil, it's kfira, it's mamash, denying God's existence, then why don't we have matzah all year long? Why do we encourage chametz throughout the year, and especially on Shabbos? We encourage the fluffy big challah. We have chametz on Shabbos. If chametz is the root of all evil, then why are we not getting rid of it all the time? And we learn in Chassidut that there's room for chametz. Chametz gives us our sense of worth, our sense of identity. It's me. My ego is necessary. I need an ego to live. If I have no ego, if I have no sense of worth, my ego could be used for good things. Chametz can be good as well. It gives me a pride to be Jewish. I'm walking around proudly to be Jewish. I can fight the hatred from outside. I can be proud of Hashem. I can know the worth that Hashem gave me. I can be so proud to be part of Am Yisrael. I can be proud of the kochos Hashem give me. But at the same time, I also need to balance that with, yes, I have all this, but all of it is from Hashem. And just like in Shvat, we needed a detox from foods, we could re-enter a relationship with food. Hashem gives us a 1 year total cleanse from, and then later in the next class we're going to learn why specifically now, why Pesach is connected to this cleanse. But for now, we know that we have a 1 week total detox and cleanse from all ego, from being completely eradicating all ego from ourselves in this specific time for very deep reasons, in order that afterwards we then re-enter our relationship with our ego from a much healthier place. Because ego, although there's so much good that comes from feeling proud and feeling good and feeling confident, there's also so much negativity. For example, anger or jealousy, all that comes from ego. And the way to eradicate, that's chametz that we acquire in our soul. And the way to eradicate anger and jealousy, for example, anger is being angry that something happened. And when we have more humility and say, well, Hashem wanted that to happen, I don't have to be angry at that person. I don't have to yell at that person who butted me in line or cut me off, because it's from Hashem. If I open myself up to be humble and say, this is what Hashem wanted to happen to me, this is what exactly Hashem wanted, who knows, maybe they had a reason. So if we have more humility, we can eradicate anger, which is the chametz that comes from ego. Also jealousy. Jealousy is something that everyone struggles with. If you don't, I don't believe you. Jealousy is not a natural feeling, and jealousy often comes from not remembering that Hashem has enough for everybody. And so if we open ourselves up and say, I have that opening from above, everything comes from Hashem. Hashem is infinite. Hashem is enough shefa for everyone. That person didn't take my husband, my partner, my job, my parnasa, my child. I can be happy for them because Hashem has enough for everybody. That wasn't mine to begin with. Hashem gave me what I'm supposed to be given. So whenever we open ourselves up to humility, we can have more comfort, and to remember that Hashem, to lean into that Hashem has everything I need, Hashem will give to me, and Hashem will get for me from another place, and that everyone has what they need, and that can be more happy for people. That's just some examples of the chametz that we acquire in our soul. So Pesach cleaning is really an inner work. In fact, there's a story about a Baba Verchassid who went to his Rebbe and he said, like, Rebbe, you'll be so proud of me. I'm so careful about Pesach. I made a separate house for Pesach. And the Rebbe said, you missed the whole point. A, chametz is not something to be avoided at all costs. It's something we want to work to clean. And B, cleaning for Pesach is, we think about it as just the means to get rid of chametz, but it's not. The actual act of cleaning for Pesach is an inner work. Just like we said last week, the karbanos was just an outer act that reflects all the inner work. The cleaning for Pesach is just an outer manifestation of we're actually doing, the inner work of cleaning ourselves out from chametz. That's why even though I leave for Pesach the last couple of years, I still clean for Pesach in myself, in my house, because it's literally doing both at the same time. Just like when you're doing yoga, you're doing an act on the outside, but you're also trying to breathe at the same time. I'm trying to all the time to fuse my cleaning and decluttering the things in my soul. So that leads me to what I said earlier, how I like to view Pesach cleaning as the search for chametz in our soul and getting rid of all that toxic chametz, as a metaphor that I thought about last year that really hit for me was, like, I like to view it as unsubscribing. The same way that, and I'll tell you why I love this mashal. Because the same way that when you're online, did it ever happen? Oh, beautiful. Did it ever happen that you're like going through your social media, YouTube, Instagram, and you're like, when did I subscribe to this channel? Why am I getting messages for this person? Why are they on my feed? Like, why am I seeing all this garbage? You unknowingly subscribe so many times without realizing it. You subscribe to YouTube channels, social media accounts that are not good for you, and you're like, let me unsubscribe from these. Let me sometimes go. There's an app called Unroll Me, that's an email app that you can literally, like, at once unsubscribe from all of the things you don't want to be getting in your email inbox. And in life is the same way. The chametz, although it's positive, a lot of times chametz leads to a lot of unwanted baggage and a lot of unwanted schmutz that weighs us down and doesn't allow us to access our highest self and to even have room or space for the miracles that Hashem wants to give us. Hashem wants to give you blessings, but we're so weighed down by fears, insecurities, anxieties, toxic beliefs, unhealthy beliefs that we subscribe to, that we don't even have space to receive the brachas Hashem wants to give us. And that's what Pesach cleaning is. So just like you subscribe sometimes to things you don't even realize you subscribe to throughout the year and throughout our lives, I feel like we unconsciously or subconsciously accept things and subscribe to things, to beliefs that weigh us down, to things that hold us back in our lives, and create baggage on our soul that we need to spend this spring cleaning time decluttering, letting go of all those things so that we can come more empty, more wholesome, more cleansed, and we're not scrubbing our soul clean. So one way you can look at it as just scrubbing your soul clean from all of the things that weigh you down, and I like to look at it as just mamash unsubscribing. So if you declutter, one of the ways to spring clean is to declutter your inbox and to go through it and be like, I like to go through my social media and find things that are not weighing me down and not making me feel good about myself. For example, if I'm following somebody who is making me feel bad about my body image, who's like postpartum and lost all their baby weight in a month, that might be great and motivational for someone else, but for me, that's not something that makes me feel good right now. It's not empowering me. It's not making me want to be a better person or grow. It's just bringing me down. So I'm going to unsubscribe to that. And I'm going to unfollow, unsubscribe all of the things that might be holding me down in my life. Anything that is not making me feel like I want to be a better person. And then choose to subscribe to better things like body and positive, empowering, therapists about feeling, good in your own body and good in your own skin. Things like that will be more conducive to me. Maybe later part of my life, I want to follow those accounts to motivate me. But right now, I need to know what season things are good for me and what season I don't need things for me. Just like you switch your closet from seasons. So Pesach cleaning in the inner work is trying to figure out all of the core, the beliefs that we subscribe to as well. And I'll give you an example of one. I remember like a subconscious belief I subscribed to. Like just by living in the world and absorbing all of the messages society tells you. So I saw my friend and she she lost weight, and I said to her, "You look amazing. Did you lose weight?" And right after I said it, I'm like, why did I even say that? Like, you don't actually I'm mamash subscribe to the belief that you look better because you lost weight. But then I thought about it, I'm like, she doesn't actually look better that she lost weight. She looked stunning before. Like, I'm just conditioned to think that if you lose weight, you look better, that skinnier equals better. But she was a beautiful, healthy weight before. She lost weight. So I was like, I'm so sorry. I went back to her, I'm like, I don't know why I said that. You looked stunning before. You lost weight. Like, I don't know if that's something you're planning to or not planning to. Maybe some people go through tragedies and lose weight and they weren't even planning to. And that's not a compliment. It's like a mental health problem. And mamash, I was like, oh my gosh, I subscribe to that belief. And I have to work on myself to unsubscribe from the belief that skinnier means better. And now I don't compliment people and say you look better because you're skinnier. If my friend is trying to lose weight, then I could say, wow, good for you. You lost weight you were trying to lose. I could be proud of you. But that doesn't necessarily mean that someone looks better because they lost weight. And it's one of those, those amongst many things that you unconsciously subscribe to or just agree with and believe about yourself, about the world without even realizing. I actually made a list of common core beliefs. Oh, I didn't bring it with me. I looked up online common core beliefs that people had, negative core beliefs. I am not worthy, I'll list you them. A lot of people believe I am not worthy of this, of blank. You can fill in the blank. I don't deserve to blank. I don't deserve to take up space. I can never succeed at blank. I am unlovable. I need to be perfect. I need to look this way. I need to dress this way to be perfect, to be lovable. I need to be perfect to be lovable. I need to be this, a blank to be accepted, loved, whatever, fill it in. And these are all these different beliefs that we subscribe to. If you look them up online, you can actually find corresponding positive beliefs that you can replace those with to help you reframe all those beliefs. Now, going back to Pesach, that's the inner work of cleansing for chametz. The inner work of cleansing for chametz is removing and decluttering and taking off the weight of all of the baggage and the chametz that holds us back, whatever is holding us back from being growth oriented, from feeling our best self, from wanting to grow, from wanting to match our best potential. Any of those beliefs, to write them down and to just choose to stop believing those things that aren't true. And the first way to start, like we said, is to speak about them as Pesach, that the redemption of the slaves is to speak about being a slave, to acknowledge, to cry out that I'm a slave, to speak about them and to have better goals and to say, I don't want to believe this anymore. All it took for me is to say, I don't want to believe that everyone who lost weight looks better now. Not necessarily is that true. For some people, it's actually negative for them. So it takes speaking about it and it's deciding. Some things take longer. It takes more work. It takes challenging those beliefs. It takes, for example, if I think that I need to be doing all of these programs to be the perfect shlucha, to be worthy of being a shlucha, I will question that. I will say, is that true? Do I expect that of other shluchas? Do I look at other shluchas who are not doing all the programs? Do I think that they're the biggest loser and they don't deserve to be on shluchas? No. So then why do I ask that to myself? Or questioning, saying, I'm telling myself that I am a failure because I couldn't do X. What would I say to my friend who did that? Would I think that she's a failure? Would I believe that? So starting to question those beliefs about ourselves and then lessening our grip on them and donating them. So just like we donate clothes that don't fit us anymore, we get things out of our house, we declutter things that we don't need anymore. Maybe those beliefs and all those things I believed were good for me at some point. We learned that most of our negative a lot of the negative baggage that we have was a coping mechanism that we needed at some point in our lives to protect ourselves, not to get hurt, to say, I can't be open, I can't be vulnerable, to be afraid of connection, to not speak in a soft way. All those things might be coping mechanisms that we took on, we call armor. Brene Brown calls them armor, that we used to protect ourselves from the world, from the fears that we have. But maybe those were good for us at some point, but just like clothing may have been great for us at one point, but don't fit us anymore. Shoes we outgrow, they get worn. They might not be good for us right now. So we want to go through our inner closet, our inner armor, and say, maybe I could take this off. Just like I'm taking off all my layers in the springtime, I can take off this armor. I don't need to maybe protect myself. I don't need to shout to get what I need. Maybe I can speak softly. Maybe I could be vulnerable. Maybe I can share my feelings about things and not have to be so abrasive on the outside. Maybe there's so much chametz on my soul that I acquired that I can donate, that go through my pantry and say, I don't need this anymore. I bought this, but I don't need it. And go through, I bought into this idea, but I don't need this anymore. And that's mamash like the most beautiful way of looking at Pesach Cleaning, going through your soul, going through your things that you believe, all the baggage you hold on to, and donating it, or throwing it out, getting rid of it, passing it on, saying, thank you, you had your season, I'm going to put you away right now. I don't need you this season. It's spring. I can take off my layers and be open to the light. And we even see in the springtime, going back to Pesach now, that is how the avoda Pesach, although it seems like there's a lot of avoda, and there's a lot of labor involved, there's no actual avoda needed to deserve the light that Hashem gives us and the miracles that Hashem wants to pour into us. All we need to do is declutter so we can make a gap in the ches and turn it into hay so that we have a space to get the shefa. Because Hashem is sending us the miracles, but if there's a ches, if I'm all chametz, then I'm blocked off from receiving that. I'm like the Jews in Mitzrayim who didn't have the space to receive the miracle. I don't have anywhere to take in the miracles Hashem wants to give us, to manifest that growth that I want to be. Hashem is like, I'm giving it to you. So just clear out some room, make yourself into a hay, detox from all the chametz. And a lot of time we think like pride is just like feeling good about yourself. Ego can very often, at least for me, manifest itself in not feeling good about yourself, in feeling bad about yourself, and feeling like a loser, feeling horrible, feeling like a failure, not because you're taking it on yourself. Instead of saying, if things didn't work out, if I wasn't, if people, let's say, didn't show up to something I did, that's Hashem. I'm only responsible for my effort. If I did my effort, the results of the world are all Hashem. So ego is saying, it's me, I failed. Humility is saying, Hashem wanted this to happen. This is Hashem's failure. I did my part. I did my best. I'm amazing. What would I tell my friend in this situation? So a lot of times ego leads us to actually feeling false humility. Feeling bad about ourselves is not humility. True humility is saying everything, the good and the bad, is from Hashem, and decluttering the things that weigh us down and thinking about which beliefs hold us back, which things do I feel about myself that hold me down, and either like mentally clicking unsubscribe or mentally donating it. That's also another way of looking at mentally putting it in a donation box and saying, thank you, you served me well, now it's time to move on to new things. I need new clothing that befit the new me. And that is how we open up the ches, open up the hay. And to end off this idea with the very beautiful quote of the Kotzker Rebbe, who said that there is nothing as whole as a broken heart. Really, and there's nothing as broken as a whole heart, he also said. Because there's nothing as beautiful and whole as a heart that's broken, as being broken, meaning knowing that, and the breakingness of humility that we're looking to reach, the breaking of the matzah, the being flat as a matzah, is not to make us feel like nothing and to feel like a shmate, but the opposite. It's to make us open. It's to break us open to receiving the everything from Hashem. And I really like that reframing. We don't need to feel like nothing. We need to be open and to receiving the everything. And that's what humility, true humility is. Not feeling like a shmata, not feeling like a flat matzah, but feeling like a broken, open matzah, a soul that's open, a heart that's open that can receive the shefa from Hashem and receive what Hashem wants to give me, because on my own I'm so limited, but with opening up myself up to receive the pouring of the shefa. And that's what a hay is. Really, if you tie this back into speech, by the way, the hay is the feminine letter. Both the hays in Hashem's name are the feminine, and the yud and the vav are masculine. Kabbalah tells us that the first hay is bina, which it says women are from bina, and the second hay is malchus, which is feminine. In fact, the hay is the representation of the womb. We said that the hay is passive and receiving, and in the act of creation, the masculine is the vav, the seed that comes down, the active acting and protruding outwards, and the womb, the female part, is receiving in an active way of receiving. She receives the opening from the womb. She receives the top of the hay represents the receiving of the seed, and then the hay nurtures that growth, and then the bottom of the hay represents the birthing of that child. So mamash, the womb represents the hay represents the malchus, which is like receives the shet all from the above spheros, and then malchus creates the rest of the world. So hay creates the world that way, the womb creates the world that way. It's a feminine month of receiving from Hashem, which is humility, which requires humility, to be malchus, to make that opening, to receive that shefa from Hashem so that we can nurture that growth, and then pass it on outwards afterwards and bird that and create all of the greatness that's all of the potential and all the greatness that we have. Now, let me see what so it's opening ourselves up to Hashem's miracle. The only thing I didn't tie in.
So where does the Yud Hey Vav Hey come in from? You said that the 4 letters of
Oh,
Hashem's
so
name.
I didn't say this in this class, but the Sefer Yetzirah begins by telling us that there's 12 ways that you can rearrange Hashem. Hashem created the world through Yud Hey Vav and Hey. That's the 4 letters that Hashem creates the world through, and there's 12 ways to rearrange them. There's the word I'm looking for, the rearranging. There's 12 formations of those, and every month they have a different formation that Sefer Yetzirah tells us, and that is like where the root of all the beginning root of the different flow of energy in every month. So they shift.
Palindrome.
Formation,
Palindrome is when it's
whatever.
the same either direction.
There's a different formation and a different formation, permutation.
Permutation.
That's the word.
The permutation means like a combination.
Yeah, that's what it is.
doesn't
It's a
really
different
mean-
combination.
yeah,
It's a
I'm
permutation. That's what I was looking for. There's a different permutation of the letters of Hashem's name. But Yud Hey Vav and Hey, I have a whole class on it on like the Kabbalah. Like we
So how is it generated from Nisan? Like what?
So Hey is first of all, Hey is the letter that Hashem creates Nisan through. It says, I brought you in the first
Right.
source, that Hashem sends the highest through the letter of Hey. So Hey is connected to this month of Nisan and connected to Pesach through being the Hey of matzah and humility, making that opening up for Hashem.
Yismachu Hashemayim.
That's the a pasuk that connects to Yud Hey Vav and Hey every month.
So each month there's a different combination. And that's
Combination,
the heading,
ziruf.
like instead of saying Yud Hey Vav Hey, like the way it is, it's like Hey Vav Hey Yud, like it's like. But this month has like
Oh, it is.
perfect.
I think I missed. Is there anything I didn't tie in?
Say that.
Matzah, chametz,
You never
ego, humility, Yigad Lebincha, speaking over. Okay, so to bring it all in, we have the to bring it back to being free from our most essential selves. We want to, in this month, our avoda is to create space in our neshama, to declutter, to minimize everything that's weighing on us, so that we can receive the cherus. And cherus means being our greatest potential, and that's what Hashem gives to us as a gift throughout the entire month of Nisan, most concentrated on the 14th, on the first night of Pesach, which is why on that day it's a mitzvah d'oraisa to eat matzah. The other days of Pesach it's optional. But on that day, it's a mitzvah to eat matzah because matzah it helps us internalize and manifest in our bodies that humility. It says matzah is the bread of humility and the bread of emunah and the bread of faith and the bread of faith. And that's how we internalize it. And throughout the entire Seder, we're really embodying our own liberation. And so going back to what we said earlier, we want to break free of 2 types of limitations, of 2 types of mitzrayim. There's the inner ones that we work on by Pesach cleaning. That's how we're getting rid of them. We're decluttering and unsubscribing and donating all of the chametz that's weighing down our soul. And when you're scrubbing, you're mamash envisioning that you're scrubbing your soul clean of all of those limiting beliefs that hold you back in life and all of those negative core beliefs that are holding you back from being your greatest potential. And then there's the outer limitations. Those we have no control over our financial state, over the things that life throws at us. How do we break free of those? That we leave up to Hashem, just like in Pesach it came from above. And the way we do it is by surrendering. And that's why a huge part of the Pesach Seder is bittul. The word we dip, throughout the Seder we dip 2 times. Tevilah, dipping, is bitul, is letters of bittul. We want to surrender and not hold on to all of that things in our life, and surrender and let Hashem redeem us. Just like we have to surrender and let Hashem take us out, like a child being taken out by Hashem from above to below. We want to surrender throughout the Seder to Hashem, removing us from our limitations, leaping over from one state to another, and being open to Hashem, being able to, mamash, imagining that we're skipping all the steps, we're leaping over, and throughout doing this avoda will allow that Pesach is something that's going to happen anyways, but we have the choice. If we do the avoda and the inner work, we can allow it to not just pass over us, that this power will be there. It won't just skip over us and just be there for a moment. The miracles, our work is to absorb them in our body, to take in and to receive the nisim, and to use that power to allow ourselves to leap with that, leap to greater heights. And it's a very hard avoda because we're so limited in this world, and to me at least, speaking for myself, I'm so stuck on a certain progressive state of growth. And it's so hard to imagine that like in one day I could go from here to where I want to be, to like the life I want to have. But if we open ourselves up to know that Hashem has done that for thousands of generations, for all of Am Yisrael, Hashem has given us that salvation, we can also acquire our own miracles. And so I want to end off and bless all of us to experience freedom in our worlds, to be free of all the inner limitations, that Hashem should take us all out of our outer limitations, and that we experience the true chayros, the redeeming of all of the hostages from their enslavement, and the redemption of all of Am Yisrael, all of Eretz Yisrael, all our Chayalim, with coming a Mashiach, the true Yeshua that should happen before this Pesach. We should experience Pesach in the Beis HaMikdash. Thank you so much for joining, and stay tuned for next class on Pesach.
Quick.
Thank you, Kiki.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye.